You connected?
Hey guys.
Hey, Congressman, how are you? Good to see you again. This is Matt from my team, and
Pleasure's
Aaron.
always.
Matt's an Eagles fan. Aaron's a Giants
Yes,
fan.
I am.
I'm a Giant fan. We're all here just to have because the Giants are playing the Niners this weekend, so we just wanted to have this.
No, the Giants are playing the Niners tonight.
Yeah. I mean, tonight. I'm sorry. It's tonight. And I'm the biggest Giants fan, and they're going to get crushed by the Niners because they don't have Saquon Barkley, and they're not a very good team. So in any event, so
I think it's going to be Eagles Niners in the NFC Championship again.
Which you traveled to last year, earlier this year, actually.
Yeah, I'm not traveling far this time because it's going to be in San Francisco.
All right. Well,
San Fran fans were very, very disappointed and angry.
Yes, but the Eagles fans. I've seen sore losers, but Eagles fans are sore winners. They're like sore winners. Like I've never seen people who won like so upset.
Are we recording this? This has got to go on air. This is gonna. No, I'm kidding. So, all right. So if you're ready, we'll start. Although it is funny because I'll tell you. All right, here we go.
Very good.
And welcome back to the Dean Obeidallah show. Right now, very happy to have on Congressman Eric Swalwell, a Democrat representing California's 15th district, serves on the House Committee on Judiciary, House Committee on Homeland Security. He's a former federal prosecutor. He's a Niners fan, and tonight, my Giants play the Niners. You know what's funny? Last week on Friday, we had Secretary of State from Arizona, Adrian Fontes, on the day before or the weekend before Arizona played the Giants, and he had his predictions. Although he knew they're not a good team and they almost beat the Giants. Your Niners are very good. So welcome back.
Thank you. And it's our second home game of the year because the first home game was when we went to Los Angeles last weekend, and there were more 49ers fans in Los Angeles than the Rams fans. So it's supposed to be our home opener, but I think it's our second home game.
There's no need to just keep adding to it all, though. The Giants, and you know, I'm a Giant fan. I also like the Jets, but I like the Giants more. And then Aaron Rodgers gets hurt on the first possession, first series this year. So we'll see how it all plays out. By the way, I have to tell you, if you don't know, because Glenn Kirshner is a mutual friend of mine as well, and he had his dinner, and I spoke at it, but there's a video of you that you gave to play at the dinner, and it was very well received, and people really cheered it, and they really see you as we're all part of this team justice, Glenn's team justice, but it's all broader than that. So the audience really cheered when they saw your video, by the way.
Thanks, Dean. And you know, I love what Glenn is doing, and it's kind of a gloves off approach in the battle for democracy, which is too much is on the line, to be nice and to be modest. That I think our kids are going to ask us, when it was on life support, like what did you do to resuscitate it? And Glenn just embodies that spirit that it's worth fighting for, in the battle of ideas and the battle for votes at the ballot box. And that fires me up, and I'm glad you're in it with him.
Yeah, he's my buddy for a few years now. You just said is so important, this battle for democracy, and that it's not talking points. This is real. It's palpable. We feel it. Glenn feels it. There are other members of the House who've come on, Congressman Raskin, for example. They feel it, talks about it. There are some, though, I'm not about calling out Democrats' names, that I don't get the urgency. And I really think, we wanted to rely on the corporate media to do the right thing on their own. They're just not going to do it. They're helping normalize a fascist. It's very dangerous, or at least a man involved in attempting a coup, if you don't want to call him a fascist, and Donald Trump. Should Democrats be talking more? And I know President Biden, there's sources that he's reporting next week or the week after he's going to speech on democracy. How important is it for Democrats in one loud voice to say, this is not normal. We're not playing games. It's not politics. This is a dire time for our democratic republic, if you believe in that.
Yep. Dean, nature abhors a vacuum, right? And in a void, if we're not defining what the issues are, Republicans will. And I'll just give you a couple examples. Look at the Biden economy under Bidenomics, unemployment down, inflation coming down, record jobs numbers, jobs, in chips and manufacturing coming back to the U.S. But Fox News and the far right, media ecosystem tells people every single day that the economy is bad. And so when a pollster calls someone, we're not, full-throated defending and advocating for the Biden economy. So they're going to hear what they're going to feel what they're hearing on Fox News. Same thing with my Republican colleagues with Merrick Garland yesterday. They like to cite that, trust in the Department of Justice is at an all-time low. Well, how did that happen? Well, they fed the beast of the right-wing media cycle and said that, the Department of Justice was corrupt. And I don't think we were defending it, as loudly and vigorously as we should. And so then someone gets polled and they say, well, yeah, I think it's corrupt. And it's really just like a self-fulfilling prophecy if we're not out there, defining what the issues are. And so on democracy, on freedom, on the economy, I think the voters are looking for leadership. And if we're thinking that we're going to win this, in some sort of, textbook approach or government legalese explanations, it's not going to work.
Absolutely. And the idea of democracy and self-determination impacts any issue you care about. Like if you care about climate change, well, if it's tyranny of the minority and we can't impact policy, even though we might have the more votes and majority on our side, it doesn't matter. Inflation, you name the issue. And certainly reproductive freedom and democracy are intertwined. Academic freedom. The other side's literally burning books now in Missouri. I mean, they're intertwined in democracy. So I think
you just said a word that we really need to own. And when we speak plainly about this, I think this is where we can win. And the word is freedom. And it's all on the line. Freedom to vote, and to have that vote counted. On climate, freedom to breathe, right? On gun violence, freedom to come home if you're a kid or if you're out, shopping, the freedom to come home, freedom to be safe. In your pocketbook, the freedom to dream. On women's reproductive rights, the freedom of body. And as you said, when it comes to education, the crazy idea that you should have the freedom to read. So we need to own freedom because we are a freedom-loving country. And the opposite of freedom is to rule. And that's what Republicans want to do. They just want to rule over your body. They want to rule over the air that you breathe. They want to rule over what your kids read. And we're a better country when we're a freer country.
I'm chatting with Congressman Eric Swalwell. Congressman, you were on my show before the midterm election, right before, because I remember you said something, and now you've said it since. But you warned that Republicans take control of the House. They will be the biggest law firm in service of one client, Donald Trump. And later you said things along those lines that they're going to act as a law firm. I never thought it would be to this degree. And yesterday's House Judiciary Committee, you're on that committee there. It was just, it's as if they don't work for the American people. I'm not being trite. Like they just work for Trump. That's the guy. That's their client. That's what it feels like.
And it's at the expense of what we should be working on, right? So they're working for one client. We're working and governing as Democrats, for the country. And that one client is a loser. He's actually mathematically, by the numbers, a loser. His best day was in November 2016 when he won the election. Then he lost the midterms. He lost the 2020 election. He lost the insurrection that he tried to incite and was, defeated by the Capitol Police. And in 22, most of his candidates that he endorsed lost. He's now been indicted. He's losing the motions in court. So they're representing a loser. And the voters, I promise you, are not going to go with a loser for their pocketbook, a loser for democracy in this upcoming election. They want, a side that's going to get shit done. And on infrastructure, on gun safety, on chips manufacturing, on bringing down the cost of prescription drugs for seniors. We're winning and we're governing. And that's going to be a winning message. And it was pathetic to watch them yesterday, Dean, because as I said, they were falling over themselves to defend one person. And it was at the expense of too many people who have real needs.
I played some clips on my show. They have to know they're not speaking about reality and they're not factually correct. Like it's Dean, beyond the pale.
They're obsessed with Hunter Biden, which again, that's a loser issue for them because they tried to use Hunter Biden to get dirt on the Biden family, and President Trump was impeached on that. Now they're trying to use Hunter Biden to impeach, his father, and that's not working with the American people. And did these people, are they serious? Because they were completely uninterested in Jared Kushner cashing out with the Saudis. They were completely uninterested in Ivanka Trump getting patents over in China while her father was president. They were completely uninterested in Donald Trump, making money off of his hotels from foreign nationals who knew they had to stay there if they wanted a meeting with him when he was president. And now they have this great interest in quote unquote corruption. It's just so obvious. As I said, one side wants to rule, one side wants to govern. And I'm confident that the side that wants, to govern is going to be given the keys to governing in about a year.
I I share that. I love that you had the Jim Jordan subpoena evasion clock running during the during the Judiciary Committee hearing yesterday, and share with people what that is and what is Jim Jordan's response to you? Does he ever talk to you?
No, actually, he ran away as soon as I started speaking. He like bolted. I've never seen the guy move so fast, toward the exit of the hearing room. But he spent the whole hearing, and his colleagues spent the whole hearing telling Merrick Garland that Garland was in contempt of Congress and that Garland wasn't following subpoenas. And to me, it's like, whoa, time out. Like the guy who's about 500 days into not honoring his January 6th subpoena, Jim Jordan, is going to lecture the Attorney General about lawfulness. So again, I think as Democrats, you can't give them an inch of credibility. Like we need to play on their side of the field. Otherwise, they're going to confuse our constituents and the American people. And so, Dean, I take this approach in those hearings of discredit, debunk, and then deliver. So discredit Jim Jordan, and the subpoena makes it all too easy.
Sure.
Debunk any myths or lies that they tell, and so spending some time on that, like Weiss, who's prosecuting Hunter Biden was a Trump appointed prosecutor. Make sure that everyone knows that, and then deliver. Make sure people understand at the end of the day that this isn't just shitting on they're crazy and punching back against their crazy. It's telling the American people, if you put us in charge, we will focus on keeping your kids safe in the classroom. We'll focus on keeping government open. We'll focus on funding Ukraine and making sure we beat Russia. So discredit, debunk, deliver. I think that's a good way to approach these.
That's a great strategy. And I wish Democrats would put that in like a pamphlet or folder for all the members. And some members do it, but it would be great if they did. I'm trying to Congressman Eric Swalwell. You mentioned January 6th. You touched on it. I know you're friends with some of the Capitol police officers or former Metropolitan police officers. And, our mutual friend Glenn Kirshner is good friends with Michael Fanone and Harry Dunn. And what I'm getting at is Donald Trump now, who wants the legal team of House GOP, wants them, he put in writing today, to shut down the government, to defund their criminal prosecutions. And to me, what was even more insulting is Matt Gaetz tweeted, "Hold the line" on that. And that's the line from the police officers who literally were beaten by MAGA people where they were holding the line. I just want to get your reaction as someone who knows those officers, know what they went through, that Matt Gaetz essentially trolling by saying today, using the Trump put and saying, "Hold the line."
Yeah, MAGA Republicans, they tell you that they're pro law enforcement, but they have shown themselves in this Trump era that they don't back the blue, they back the coup. And if that means throwing under the bus the officers who defended the Capitol that day to stand with Donald Trump, they're going to do it. And again, this just shows that this is all about one person. And it's just so pathetic that their job title is representative, not lawyer, but they act like Donald Trump's lawyers, and it's at the cost of their constituents. But as we go into a shutdown, they are shutting down, the security of our country. They're so worried about the border. They tell us, well, nothing is worse for border security than not paying the people who are charged with protecting the border, which is what they're proposing to do unless we end Donald Trump's investigation. So they're not, as I said, they're not pro-police. They're pro-coup. And they've never accepted Joe Biden as a legitimate president. And they're going to do everything they can to try and put Donald Trump back in office at the complete expense of people who are counting on government working for them.
And I just say one thing about the officers. I met Harry Dunn and Daniel Hodges. Michael Fanone wasn't there at Glenn's thing. These guys are big. Like I didn't realize how like these are, and I'm like, what they went through at their size, like Harry Dunn and Daniel Hodges, who's quiet. And he was the officer famously getting crushed at the door. Big guy. And I'm like, these are, and I wish my point is, if you see them, you realize how violent and barbaric the attack was, because they weren't like thin little guys going, "Oh, please stop." These were big men who were fighting the good fight. So you talk about the budget. I see there's a budget deal reached for the House GOP. Now there's not a deal. Who is the Speaker of the House at this point? Can you tell? I'm not even kidding. Who runs the House?
Kevin McCarthy has the title of Speaker. Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene, they have the job of Speaker. So McCarthy has the title. Those crazies have the job. And McCarthy can't go any farther than Gaetz and Greene and Boebert and others want to go. And so if they want to shut down the government, we're shutting down the government. McCarthy, he just wants the title. He just wants, as he famously, took the picture under the unveiling of Speaker. That's all it really seems that he wants. I saw something yesterday, Dean, that I've never seen before, when they were trying to fund the government and they were losing, their own bill. And I'm going to go into the weeds a little bit with your listeners here, because they're people who, they live and thrive in the weeds because they know that's where so many of these decisions are made. And I think they'll appreciate this. When your party is in charge, you're in charge of putting forward the legislation that keeps the Congress running and functioning. And so you have to put forward procedural votes to do that. And so to get to funding the government, McCarthy put forward a bill yesterday to get us to that vote. And he was down 2 votes, which means that the Congress will shut down if he can't keep it open and able to pass legislation to fund the government. So if Nancy Pelosi ever was in a position where she didn't have the votes, to run the Congress, first, she would never even put it up for a vote because she would figure out how to get the deal done. But 2, she would be on the floor of the House going to the members who are voting against her and telling them why it's so important that they vote with her. Instead, I'm not shitting you. I watched Kevin McCarthy as he's down 2 votes and he's about to turn over the floor to the Democrats because he's not going to have the votes to run the floor. He's just looking up with his hand in his pocket at the voting board, as curious as the rest of us as to how his members were going to vote. And as I said, you would see members of Congress shrink in front of Nancy Pelosi as she told them why they need to do for the good of the country what she's asking them to do. And she would never have been in that position. So we have a great contrast of what it looks like to govern. And as I said, what it looks like, to preside over chaos. And Kevin McCarthy was a spectator speaker yesterday. And it was embarrassing. I had secondhand embarrassment to watch the guy completely not in control of his members.
And that's a great story, because instead of being the leader, he's a spectator watching his own caucus that he can't control. Yeah. Spectator speaker. That's great. And last 2 things. In your heart, do you think there's going to be a shutdown? Because not to get in the weeds, but I think it's important to understand that even if the GOP gets their caucus together, passes some extreme, outrageous spending bill, even a continuing resolution, it goes to the Senate where it's going to just be trashed and then has to come back. So where do you think we're going?
I want to be honest with your listeners. I'm afraid that these guys are hell-bent on shutting down the government, and they're not competent enough to find a way to avoid that. In the Senate, your listeners should also know that there have been bipartisan bills to fund the government, and Democrats are willing to work with Republicans to keep the government open. And so we stand ready to do that. But these chaos agents, as I said, are hell-bent. So yes, McCarthy, even if he can get the votes, to pass an extreme budget, that hurts, our kids, that hurts our teachers, that hurts our veterans, that hurts our military personnel. Even if he gets the votes, it'll never be accepted in a bipartisan way in the Senate, and it will just lead to a shutdown. And so we have to be ready for that. And again, this is a MAGA shutdown, and too many of them have proudly said this is what they want. And so we have to make sure they own it, because they are the failures. That's the best way. If there's a phrase to describe them, they're the failures. They've failed to govern. They failed to lead. They failed to unite. They failed to take care of the people they're charged with taking care of. The failures.
The failure sounds like a one-hit wonder band from like the 70s or something like that.
It's the opposite of the Avengers.
Right? Instead of the Avengers, we got the failures. And very last thing, because you're on House Judiciary, you'll be one of the committees charged with the impeachment inquiry, even though there's not even be a vote of the whole House to authorize it. I've read there might be hearings next week. Do you have any sense of what might be happening in your committee going forward on this so-called impeachment inquiry?
Yeah, they are going, again, to try and find any reason to impeach President Biden because they don't accept him as the legitimate president. And again, we have to discredit them. And so in every hearing, I will make sure that people know that the people impeaching President Biden are the people that helped incite the insurrection. They rooted on the insurrection. They acquitted the insurrection when we voted on impeachment. And they go and give comfort to insurrectionists at the January 6th DC jail where they're serving their time. And so they can't have any credibility, but they are going to try and impeach President Biden. They're going to put 19 Biden Republicans. These are members of Congress who are in districts that President Biden won. They're going to force them to take this vote in an impeachment over nothing. And again, it's going to be chaos. I feel bad for the American people who have to suffer through this, but there is a light at the end of this tunnel of hell, and it's in 14 months when the keys to governing in the House will return to the side that believes in governing.
Absolutely. And you could have a greater contrast. Democrats delivered on policy when we had the House, the Senate, and the White House. These guys deliver on chaos and ego stroking. It's insane. Well, Congressman, even though we disagree on the Niners and the Giants, it's great we can find common ground on issues like saving our democratic republic. This is vitally important. So, Congressman, thank you for your great fight and your steadfastness, and also the succinctness and the laser focus and laying it out in plain English. People have to know the stakes, and I so applaud you and the other members that do that. I wish all of them did that. But thank you, Congressman.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you, and your viewers.
Have a great day.
All right.